Imagine your worst enemy attacks at 3 a.m., then again at noon, then at sunset, and you're ready for all three battles. That was daily life for Comanche warriors who somehow turned sleep deprivation into their greatest weapon. The secret wasn't willpower or genetics, but a sleep pattern so unusual it sounds impossible. The Comanche warriors had cracked a code that modern sleep scientists are just beginning to understand. While most of us collapse into bed for 8 hours straight like a hibernating bear, these Plains warriors mastered something called polyphasic sleep. Instead of one long snooze, they split their rest into multiple short naps throughout the day and night. Here's where it gets interesting. Their total sleep time? Around 2 hours. Yes, you heard that right. 2 measly hours while maintaining peak fighting condition. Makes your Monday morning coffee struggles seem pretty pathetic, doesn't it? But this wasn't some ancient form of sleep deprivation torture. These brief sleep cycles actually kept them more alert than our modern marathon sleeping sessions. Think about it. When you sleep for 8 hours straight, you wake up groggy and need coffee just to remember your own name. The Comanche warriors, they popped up from their 20-minute naps, ready to ride into battle or track buffalo across miles of prairie. The science behind this makes perfect sense when you dig into it. Before Thomas Edison ruined everything with his light bulb, humans naturally followed polyphasic sleep patterns. Our ancestors didn't have Netflix keeping them up until midnight, so they adapted to shorter, more frequent rest periods that matched the rhythms of survival. Well, the Comanche took this natural tendency and weaponized it. Their power naps weren't just about catching some Z's. They were strategic tools that minimized downtime and maximized their availability for whatever the harsh plains life threw at them. Whether it was hunting, raiding, or defending their territory, someone was always ready for action. This sleep strategy gave them an incredible edge over enemies who followed more predictable rest patterns. While other tribes or settlers were dead to the world for hours at a stretch, Comanche warriors could respond to threats or opportunities at any moment. It's like having a security system that never goes offline. And the weird part is, modern elite military units have stumbled back onto this same approach. Navy SEALs and other special forces train with similar sleep deprivation and short rest techniques. The Comanche were essentially running special operations tactics centuries before anyone coined the term. Their polyphasic sleep wasn't just about staying awake longer, it was about maintaining a constant state of readiness that would make a caffeinated squirrel jealous. This mastery over their own biology set the foundation for everything else that made them legendary. But here's what really separated them from everyone else. How they turned nighttime into their tactical playground. You know how your neighbor Bob complains about being tired after his 8-hour beauty sleep? Well, Comanche warriors would have laughed at Bob while staying alert all night on just 20-minute power naps. These guys turned night watches into an art form. Think of it like the world's most dangerous neighborhood watch program, except instead of checking for suspicious characters, they were scanning for enemy war parties who'd love nothing more than to catch them snoozing. The rotation system was brilliant in its simplicity. While 3 warriors caught their brief naps, 2 others stayed on high alert, eyes scanning the horizon like human radar dishes. Every couple of hours, they'd switch. Makes sense, right? But here's where it gets interesting. Unlike modern security guards who might doze off during the graveyard shift, these warriors actually became more alert as the night progressed. Their polyphasic sleep cycles meant they were never hitting that 3 a.m. crash we all know and hate. The weird part is how this constant vigilance became second nature. Most of us can't even stay awake during a boring movie, but Comanche warriors could detect the slightest movement in complete darkness. They developed what you might call supernatural awareness, hearing a twig snap from hundreds of yards away or sensing when something just didn't feel right. Then there's the trust factor. When your life depends on your buddy staying awake while you grab 15 minutes of shut-eye, you better believe that creates an unbreakable bond. These weren't just teammates, they were extensions of each other's survival instincts. Let's not forget the psychological warfare aspect. Enemy tribes never knew when the Comanche were actually sleeping. Picture trying to plan a surprise attack when your target seemed to have eyes in the back of their heads 24 hours a day. It's like playing chess against someone who can see your next 10 moves. The night watch rotation also served as training for younger warriors. They'd learn to read the subtle signs of danger, the way horses' ears perk up, how certain bird calls change when strangers approach, or why the usual cricket symphony suddenly goes silent. Well, staying alert all night was just half the battle. The real magic happened during the day when these same warriors needed explosive energy for combat. But how exactly did those tiny naps translate into the legendary endurance that made them unstoppable on the battlefield? Surviving on 2 hours of sleep sounds like a recipe for disaster, right? Well, for Comanche warriors, it was actually their secret weapon for building superhuman endurance. Think about it like training at high altitude. When you're constantly operating under stress, your body adapts in remarkable ways. Here's where it gets interesting. Most of us collapse after one all-nighter, maybe two if we're feeling ambitious, but these warriors made sleep deprivation their daily routine, and their bodies responded by becoming incredibly efficient at recovery. It's like having a sports car engine that runs on fumes but still delivers peak performance. The science behind this is fascinating. When you consistently operate on minimal sleep, your body learns to maximize the restorative power of whatever rest it gets. Every 20-minute nap became as refreshing as what we consider a full night's sleep. Their nervous systems adapted to function optimally on what would leave modern people stumbling around like zombies. But here's the kicker. This wasn't just about staying awake. The constant cycle of brief rest and immediate alertness actually built their physical stamina over time. Picture a muscle that gets stronger through resistance training. Their entire physiological system became conditioned for endurance through this controlled stress. This sleep strategy gave them an enormous advantage during those grueling multi-day battles that could stretch across hundreds of miles of prairie. While their enemies grew increasingly fatigued, Comanche warriors maintained their edge. They'd been training for exactly these conditions their entire lives. The psychological benefits were just as impressive. When you've mastered functioning on minimal sleep, everything else feels manageable. Bad weather? No problem. Long hunts? Piece of cake? Extended raids? Just another day at the office. This mental toughness became legendary among both allies and enemies. Their endurance wasn't just physical, it was a complete lifestyle adaptation. Like marathon runners who train their bodies to efficiently burn different fuel sources, these warriors trained their entire being to operate under conditions that would break ordinary people. Even their horses seemed to pick up on this rhythm. The animals learned to rest when their riders rested, creating an entire war machine that could function on minimal downtime. It was efficiency perfected through necessity. This incredible endurance became their calling card across the Great Plains. But raw stamina was only part of their success. The real genius lay in how they turned their unique sleep patterns into something far more dangerous, a tactical weapon that kept enemies guessing and constantly off balance. The Comanche had cracked something that even modern military strategists still struggle with, turning sleep itself into a weapon. While their enemies followed predictable patterns, rolling out their bedrolls at sunset like clockwork, Comanche warriors became ghosts in the night. Think about it this way. If you're playing hide and seek with someone who takes naps at random times, you'll never know when they're actually watching you. That's exactly what made the Comanche so terrifying to face. Their polyphasic sleep schedule meant a war party could be resting at 3 in the afternoon, then wide awake and moving at midnight when everyone else was snoring. Makes sense, right? Most people assume warriors sleep when it gets dark, but the Comanche threw that rule book out the window. Well, here's where it gets really interesting. While settlers and rival tribes planned attacks around normal sleep hours, the Comanche were already 3 steps ahead. They'd catch a quick 20-minute nap at dawn, then be fully alert when enemies expected them to be groggy from waking up. But the real genius wasn't just being awake at weird hours. It was how unpredictable this made their entire operation. One day they'd strike at sunrise, the next at high noon, then again in the dead of night. Their enemies never knew what hit them because there was no pattern to follow. Modern special forces units actually study similar techniques today, though they probably wouldn't admit they're borrowing from 19th century horse warriors. The principle remains the same. If your opponent can't predict when you're resting versus when you're ready to fight, you control the battlefield. And the weird part is how this affected their decision-making speed. When you're used to functioning on microbursts of sleep, your brain becomes incredibly efficient at processing information quickly. No grogginess, no, let me think about it. Just instant tactical responses. Then there's the psychological warfare aspect. Imagine being a soldier knowing your enemy might be watching you right now, even though you're certain they should be sleeping. That kind of constant uncertainty wears down morale faster than any direct attack. The Comanche turned sleep, something most people see as downtime, into their secret advantage. While everyone else was stuck in predictable cycles, they moved like shadows across the plains, striking when least expected and vanishing before anyone could react. But mastering this sleep strategy was just one piece of their warrior puzzle. The way they actually wove rest and combat readiness into their entire culture reveals something even more remarkable about their approach to warfare. The Comanche didn't just sleep differently, their entire culture revolved around being ready to fight at a moment's notice. Think about your grandfather who could wake up from a dead sleep if someone touched his car keys. Now multiply that by 1,000 and you're getting close to Comanche warrior mentality. Their society didn't operate on farmer schedules or merchant hours. When the sun went down, that didn't mean bedtime. When it came up, that didn't guarantee wake-up time either. These warriors lived by one simple rule: stay ready so you don't have to get ready. But here's where it gets interesting. Sleep wasn't seen as weakness or laziness like some macho cultures might view it today. Instead, the Comanche treated strategic rest as another weapon in their arsenal. Smart rest meant better fighting. Makes sense, right? The warrior ethos went beyond just being tough guys on horses. They understood something most people miss. True strength comes from knowing when to conserve energy and when to unleash it. Like a good baseball pitcher who doesn't throw fastballs every single pitch, Comanche warriors mastered the art of pacing themselves. Young warriors learned early that comfort was the enemy of readiness. While other tribes might have elaborate sleeping arrangements or specific bedtime rituals, Comanche warriors could crash anywhere, anytime, for however long the situation allowed. Your modern military calls this tactical flexibility. The Comanche just called it Tuesday. What's fascinating is how they turned necessity into identity. Being able to function on minimal sleep became a source of pride, like a badge of honor passed down through generations. It wasn't just about surviving. It was about thriving under conditions that would break ordinary people. The really clever part, they made this lifestyle sustainable by building it into their social structure. Everyone understood the system. Warriors didn't complain about being tired because everyone was operating under the same demanding schedule. It's like having a gym buddy who keeps you accountable, except your buddy is your entire tribe and the stakes are life or death. This mentality shaped everything from how they planned raids to how they raised children. Rest was earned, not expected. Alertness was valued above all else. And the weird part is, they seemed to enjoy this intense way of living. Their approach to combining warfare with rest created something unprecedented on the Great Plains. But how exactly did they turn short naps into such a devastating tactical advantage against their enemies? The Comanche didn't just survive harsh conditions, they absolutely thrived in them. While most people today complain about losing an hour of sleep during daylight saving time, these warriors built an entire civilization around functioning on what we consider impossible circumstances. Their lifestyle was like being a professional athlete, Navy SEAL, and wilderness survival expert all rolled into one. But here's the kicker. They did it 24/7, 365 days a year, no off-season, no vacation days, no calling in sick because you didn't get your full 8 hours. Think about modern special forces training. Those guys get pushed to their absolute limits for weeks at a time. Then they go home to air conditioning and pizza delivery. The Comanche, this was just Tuesday for them. They adapted to scarcity like it was their superpower. Food running low, no problem. Water sources dried up. They knew where to find more. Enemy tribe approaching. Time to show them why messing with the Comanche was a terrible life choice. This intense lifestyle created warriors who could pivot faster than a politician during election season. When conditions changed, and they changed constantly on the Great Plains, these guys didn't need a committee meeting to figure out their next move. They just adapted. But why embrace such a punishing way of life? Well, the Great Plains weren't exactly known for their forgiving nature. Brutal winters, scorching summers, unpredictable weather, and plenty of groups who wanted your territory. You either got tough or you got gone. The Comanche chose tough, really tough. Their entire culture revolved around this principle of thriving under pressure. Where other societies might see hardship, They saw opportunity to get stronger. It's like they took the phrase, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger," and turned it into a lifestyle manual. Living this way meant every warrior was essentially a human Swiss Army knife, versatile, reliable, and ready for whatever came next. They could hunt, fight, navigate, survive extreme weather, and yes, function perfectly on almost no sleep. This adaptability didn't happen overnight. Generations of living on the edge created a people who were comfortable being uncomfortable. They found ways to not just survive, but dominate in conditions that would break most folks. The intensity of their lifestyle was their secret weapon. But even with all this toughness and adaptability, they still needed actual rest strategies that worked. And that's where their mastery of strategic power napping becomes absolutely fascinating, because they turned even the shortest breaks into tactical advantages. The Comanche didn't just collapse anywhere for a quick snooze like your uncle at Thanksgiving dinner. These warriors turned power napping into a precision science that would make NASA jealous. Picture a Comanche warrior finishing a grueling patrol across scorching prairie land. While most people would need a hotel room and room service, he'd simply find a shaded spot behind his horse, use his saddle as a pillow, and catch 20 minutes of sleep that somehow recharged him better than a full night's rest. But here's where it gets fascinating. They didn't just randomly doze off whenever fatigue hit. These naps were strategically timed like a Swiss watch. After eating, perfect nap time, since digestion naturally makes you drowsy anyway. During the hottest part of the day, when even rattlesnakes sought shade, another ideal window. Between scout missions when the camp had natural lulls, you guessed it. Makes sense, right? But the real genius wasn't when they napped. It was how short these power sessions actually were. We're talking minutes, not hours. Just enough time to reset their mental clarity without diving into deep sleep cycles that would leave them groggy. It's like hitting the refresh button on your computer, except their computer happened to be a warrior who could ride for days and fight like a demon. And the weird part is this perfectly mimicked how predators behave in nature. Ever watch a mountain lion? They don't sleep for 8 hours straight like house cats. They take these brief, strategic rest periods that keep them sharp for the next hunt or territorial dispute. Well, Comanche warriors essentially became human predators of the plains using this exact same approach. Their energy levels stayed consistent throughout marathon campaigns that would destroy ordinary men. No dramatic crashes, no afternoon sluggishness, just steady, reliable performance when it mattered most. Then there's the recovery factor. These micro naps prevented the kind of bone-deep exhaustion that makes people sloppy and careless. Instead of building up massive sleep debt like some kind of biological credit card bill, they paid it off in small, manageable installments throughout each day. But even more impressive than their napping strategy was how they managed to rest while staying completely ready for combat. Because when you're living in hostile territory where enemies could attack any second, even sleep becomes a tactical decision that could mean life or death. Even when Comanche warriors caught those precious minutes of rest, they never truly switched off. Think of it like sleeping with one eye open, except they actually mastered the skill while most of us can barely function after hitting the snooze button twice. Their version of catching some Z's looked nothing like our modern idea of curling up under a cozy blanket. Warriors positioned themselves so they could spring into action faster than a cat hearing a can opener. Weapons stayed within arm's reach, not tucked away in some distant corner, but right there, ready to grab. But here's where it gets really clever. They chose their sleeping spots like a chess master, planning 5 moves ahead. High ground for visibility? Check. Quick escape routes mapped out? Double check. Cover from potential enemy fire? You bet. These weren't random power naps in whatever shady spot looked comfortable. Group formations during rest periods worked like a human alarm system. While 2 or 3 warriors dozed, others maintained watch positions. Then they'd rotate, ensuring fresh eyes always scanned the horizon. It was more organized than most corporate security teams today and infinitely more effective. The really remarkable part was how they trained their minds to stay partially alert even while resting. Most of us sleep like logs, dead to the world until morning. These warriors developed what you might call tactical awareness during sleep. A snapping twig 50 yards away, they'd hear it. Unusual bird calls, their eyes would open instantly. Well, this wasn't some supernatural ability. they conditioned themselves through constant practice and necessity. Living on the Great Plains meant danger could arrive from any direction at any moment. Rival tribes, wild animals, changing weather, threats never took coffee breaks. Their shallow sleep patterns meant they could distinguish between normal environmental sounds and potential dangers. The wind rustling grass was fine. Horses moving differently than usual. Time to wake up completely and assess the situation. And the weird part is how this actually improved their overall rest quality. By staying slightly alert, they avoided the deep sleep anxiety that comes from feeling completely vulnerable. They could relax, knowing their subconscious stood guard. This controlled rest system created warriors who were nearly impossible to ambush successfully. Enemies expecting to find sleeping targets instead encountered fighters who could transition from rest to combat readiness in seconds, not minutes. But this level of tactical awareness during rest didn't happen overnight. It required years of training, starting from childhood, building habits that would serve them throughout their warrior careers. Next, we'll explore how this intense lifestyle shaped every aspect of Comanche society.